Hi guys, welcome back to Diane's POV podcast. My name is Diane and I'm so glad to have you guys here with me today. So let's get into the episode. Okay, so first things first, happy October. I know technically last episode was released October 1st, but I haven't recorded since September. So happy October, spooky season, so exciting. And it's also grind season. Winter and fall is usually when everybody has their head down doing their thing, which I absolutely love. However, during these times it could get a little lonely, and I honestly believe that it's not a bad thing. Let me explain. So I kind of use loneliness and solitude interchangeably, even though it depends on the meaning. Because when you're alone or you're feeling lonely, it's because you are physically alone. When solitude, on the other hand, is the exact same thing. You are alone, right? So it's the same experience, just interpreted differently. So as we know, we kind of interpret the world through biochemical signalings and stuff like that. So there's actual things happening when we're responding to the world. So loneliness itself actually activates the brain's pain matrix, since we associate loneliness with feeling sad and just having a negative connotation altogether. So when you're feeling lonely, it's just not a emotional pain. It's a actual pain, because your brain activates your dorsal anterior cingulated cortex. That's a mouthful. We're going to call it DAC. So it activates this region in your brain where it kind of interprets painful experiences. Whether it's physical or emotional, everything just goes through the same biochemical process. And it's just some signaling pathways that tells your brain something's up, something is wrong. So loneliness is not just a social issue, it's part of our survival mechanisms, and it's deeply rooted in our biology, because our ancestors, if you're alone, that means you're kicked out of the tribe or something, and you have to forge for yourself. So it's associated with danger, so our brain kind of evolves to treat this loneliness as a serious threat. So when we're feeling lonely, our brain activates the stress response. So our sympathetic nervous system is activated. So cortisol and adrenaline, all that is activated. And I know I talked about this in the de-stress episode, but anywho, your brain goes into fight or flight, and your body is releasing all these stress hormones. And as we all know, it leads to inflammations, which can cause so many chronic health problems for you. So as I mentioned in the last episode, high levels of cortisol has a negative impact on your cognitive function because of how your brain is rewired. So it affects your memory and decision makings, and the feeling of isolation or loneliness for extended periods of time will also increase forgetfulness. It makes you less focused, and it also affects your emotional reactivity, which is absolutely crazy, because solitude, on the other hand, even though it's the same experience of feeling loneliness or being alone, it actually does the complete opposite of what loneliness does. So solitude is more of something that we choose, so it's intentional, when we want to be alone, you know what I mean? So it shifts your brain to a default mode network, and it's this region of your brain that becomes active when you're not focused on the outside world. but you're just like focused more on your internal thoughts and reflection. So this default mode allows you to process memories, plan for your future, and just like make sense of your experiences. The prefrontal cortex, which is that frontal region of your brain, is actually increased in this case. So you're making better decisions and you're just like doing more deep thinking and self-reflection. So when you embrace this like solitude state, it actually recharges you, and it makes your like brain kind of focus on personal growth, and your parasympathetic nervous system is actually activated, which does like the complete opposite of your sympathetic nervous system. So it reduces your stress hormone levels, and it just puts you in this state of calm and like creative thinking, and just like wants you to like find clarity. It also increases serotonin, which regulates your mood and kind of contributes to that feeling of calm and contentment. So, all in all, I honestly think loneliness and solitude is the exact same thing because they have the same concept. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just how you perceive it. Like, you can perceive it as a good thing or you can perceive it as a bad thing. And that's how your body will respond to it. And I feel like when you're alone, it's an extremely uncomfortable situation. So because our brain does not want to be uncomfortable, we don't want to be uncomfortable. So it doesn't want to put you in situations like that. So you like try your best to find comfort. And how do we find comfort when we're alone? We look for distractions, things to keep our mind off of it. So whether it's like watching a TV series or going out with your friends, you're always trying to look for something to keep you busy so you don't feel the sense of loneliness. So a couple of years ago, like maybe 3 years ago, I was already in a rut, and like just like all these new things were coming my way. Like I was going to college and we're back to like in-person classes, um, starting a new job. Like just like everything was so new, and I felt extremely uncomfortable, and I felt alone because I didn't really have many friends. Um, and even when there was people around, like I had my family, which was honestly one of the highlights of these past couple of years. But at the same time, I still had that sense of loneliness. Like I couldn't escape the feeling of feeling alone. Um, and honestly, it was uncomfortable. Like it was really, like I didn't want to feel that way. We never really want to feel that way, anyways. But after a while, like after like beating myself up for a bit, I was like just sitting in my room, just like thinking, because why not? And I was like, God put me in this position of loneliness for a reason. And I was like, there's a purpose for me being in this situation. So, what is the purpose? Like, I feel like there's a lesson here for me to learn. And during this time, I did a lot of journaling, right? Like, I journaled everything, maybe even twice a day, um, just to like kind of process the world around me. And I like shift my perspective of what it meant to be alone. Like instead of just like focusing on the negative and it's like, well, there's nobody around, nobody understands me, I kind of like shifted it to like, okay, I feel like I'm in the state to grow. So I'm like, there's something here for me. There's something good here for me. So just like switching that perspective kind of changed my whole mood, which makes sense because of all like the chemistry and stuff in your brain. But it literally changed my whole mood. It changed my perspective on life. And then I try to like find peace. You know what I mean? And I feel like journaling was one of the biggest things that helped, because like during this time, like just like writing things out allowed me to like think things through more clearly. And it was just like I was trying to find that inner peace the whole time. And when I did, nothing felt better, honestly. Like, I feel like my whole perspective of life changed for the better during that time. Even though it was hard, I feel like when you're in an uncomfortable situation, that's kind of how you know it's working, because in order to grow, you need to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? That's just like the way the world works. And it just like allowed me to kind of grow up in a lot of sense, because like whenever I like talk to people, people always mention how I'm more like emotionally mature. And I'm not mentioning this to like toot my own horn in any way, but I feel like the reason why I'm like emotionally mature is because I took the time to actually process my emotions. Because like when you're alone, there's no like input from anybody or from the outside world. Like it just allows you to like kind of like dissociate and look at it from a third person point of view, and just like processing it like that, just like knowing where I stand without anybody telling me where I should stand, if that makes any sense. But yeah, like I feel like that was one of like the best things I got from it, because when I was younger, I tend to like let things get to me a lot, and now I'm just like in this zen state. Like I'm just like, people literally laugh because of how like zen I am. Like nothing bothers me anymore, just because I'm like processing a lot of it. I'm just like, well, things happen, and I'm just like, life goes on, you know what I mean? Anywho, I feel like there's just so much good that comes from being alone and spending that time by yourself. Like you're allowed to set goals and like meet your personal goals. You're giving yourself time to like reflect on yourself and reflect on life. It strengthens your mindset. It helps you stay present, and also reduces your stress levels, be more creative, and most importantly, it makes you more independent. And it's funny because like I always like remember my mom saying like, you need to be like comfortable being by yourself, and just like building that sense of independence was one of the greatest things ever, because now I don't feel like I need other people's validations or just like their company in order to be happy. And I swear to God, when I say like when I was alone, I really found company within myself. Like not in like the crazy way, you know what I mean? But like it just like allowed me to learn more about myself, find peace in my own company, and it just like feel whole in a way. Like, and I feel like now, since like I'm more comfortable with myself, I'm able to give others and reciprocate the same energy. Um, and honestly, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to just sit with your thoughts, but then it becomes more comfortable eventually, and you just have to work through it. And another like big thing, like I'm just gonna focus on how being alone and loneliness impacted me. Um, I think it not only like helped with my independence, it also really helped with the relationships that I have. I feel like now I just like appreciate all interactions that I have. Well, not all, but like just like the relationships that I have with people. And it also made me evaluate what relationships were good for me in comparison to the relationships that weren't good for me. Um, and in that sense, it also allowed me to be more present with the people that I'm with. So I'm just like more aware of certain situations, and like whenever I'm hanging out with somebody, whether it's a friend or a family member, I'm gonna be there 100% and give my 100%, because I care about this relationship and I want to put more energy into it, you know what I mean, because I care. um and it's just like it really just made me appreciate all my relationships in general. Like even just like sometimes when you say hi to a stranger, like usually I never really thought about it because I was always in like thinking about something else. But now I'm just like, oh, like that was really nice, or you know what I mean? Just being more present in my day-to-day life. And I'm not saying, like, let me just clear this up. I'm not saying that we should cut off society, run away, live in solitude forever, because that's just not going to be as healthy. Like, I feel like anything to the extreme is never good for you, but taking time to be alone and in solitude through different periods of your life is good for you. And like, we're social beings, right? Because we like to build communities, we like to talk to people, we like to build society, you know what I mean? And so it's good to be part of a community, but is it the community that aligns with you and your values and stuff like that? That's what solitude allows you to figure out and get more clarity on, is how you want to live your life, who do you want to spend it with, and who do you want to be. Okay. And another thing that I also wanted to mention that's super, super important and I thought was really interesting was our brains are ever evolving, right? So loneliness and solitude impacts our neuroplasticity, right? And just like the wiring of our brain. So if we're in like this sad state and we're beating ourselves up for being alone and just having that mindset, it takes work obviously, but you can always flip the script and like change your way of thinking, and it will change the neuroplasticity of your brain and the wiring of your brain. Because if you are in like that loneliness mindset and you're associating loneliness with sad, anger, jealousy, all of those emotions, and I feel like society kind of did that in general, because you're kind of looked upon, down upon when you're like alone or feeling lonely, you know what I mean? But anywho, back to what I was saying, it kind of wires your brain to your amygdala. So it rewires some of that like wiring from your prefrontal cortex to your amygdala as part of your survival skills. And then now it's like you're experiencing this emotion times 10, and like all these hormones are being released and all these signalings telling you that you are alone. But then you can kind of switch that and just be like, okay, yes, I'm alone. And it's a good thing for me. Like, I feel like there's something here for me. And that wiring would like switch off. And then like your brain will rewire, increasing your prefrontal cortex. And just like, it's just like how your brain is communicating with the world. You know what I mean? The wiring, the hormones is just a response to how you are responding to things. You know what I mean? How you think of things, how you want to respond to the world. And I feel like this is like one of the greatest examples of some things in life are just not good or bad. It's how you perceive it. It's all about perspective at the end of the day. So you can kind of reverse some of the damage by kind of linking your loneliness with solitude. And it just like kind of rewires your brain into a positive neural pathway and kind of makes yourself more resilient to the more vulnerable side of the negative effects of loneliness. You know what I mean? And like you can pick up practices that kind of help with that positive mindset, which is journaling, meditation, and just being more aware of everything in general. And it's crazy because so many like religions and like spiritual practices, philosophy, always encourage people to take time of solitude, even though it's uncomfortable, in order for them to get clarity in life. You know what I mean? Like, I know, like, and I feel like so many of like the great thinkers in the world, like Einstein, whoever you want to think of, all had practices of solitude in their day to day. Like, I know Einstein used to like walk around with like a spoon, and then he would just like spend time thinking, and then he'd probably like take a nap and then wake up. But like he would still like have those moments of solitude by yourself to just think. Okay, I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but all in all, I feel like loneliness can lead to great things and great self discovery. It allows you to find deeper peace in general, and also equips you to connect with the right community and just become the version of yourself that you want to be. And everything in life depends on perspective, depends on the lens that you choose to look at it. Just try to like be more positive. I know it's hard, but it's worth it. So even though it's uncomfortable, just take time to be alone and ask yourself the hard questions, even though it's uncomfortable. And try to avoid distractions when you're alone, even though it's so easy to like find things to distract you. Just be by yourself with your thoughts for a while and work through it with yourself. Anywho, I am gonna end the episode here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you leave a comment and review if you really like this episode. And you can also reach out to me and connect with me on Instagram at AdiansPOV, where you can get like updates on new episodes and stuff like that. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys again for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.